Hey there, welcome. If you are thinking of planning a mission, vision and values workshop for a client or your organisation, this is the session for you. Likewise, if you're thinking about refreshing, updating or creating a brand new mission, vision and values for your organisation, because in this session I've got a facilitation toolkit, your whole workshop, all the process in a box ready to go for you so that you can run this as your own, work through all the activities and get a really good outcome at the end of the session. So I hope you enjoy it. What we're going to cover is an agenda to save you loads of planning time, loads of activities that have been tried and tested, fresh ideas and tips for leading a workshop that achieves a brilliant experience and the outputs that you're looking for as well. It gets the results. Now, if you are looking to follow along in a lot more detail, you can go to the free article guide I've written on the Big Bang Partnership website. You can see the link there. It's Facilitation Ideas for Mission, Vision and Values. Just go to bigbangpartnership.co.uk, go to the blog and type in mission and it will pop up. And if you want the actual full toolkit of all these activities, detailed agendas, how to run them, what to say, the rationale and the thinking behind all of these, you can get your full toolkit as well. There's a QR code ready for you to scan and take a look at, but everything is in there for you to run your workshop either online or in person. Okay, let's get going. Think about, first of all, what is a mission, vision and values? What do we mean by those terms? And I'm sure you know those, but just for clarity, we'll have a run through. The mission of a team or a business is the core purpose of that of the organisation. Essentially, it's why that exists, the very reason a business or a team has been set up. Now, the mission really defines the why behind what the organisation does and its reasons for doing it. So the mission needs to be clear, service-oriented and durable. It needs to last. And it usually starts with our mission is to, and then fulfil the purpose. I've got a few examples for you coming up a little bit later. The vision is aspirational. It's a statement of where the business, team or person wants to be in the future. And a great vision looks ahead. It's purposefully ambitious, it's realistically stretchy, and it needs to be ambitious, specific and memorable so that when people are asked about the vision, they know what it is and where the organisation's heading. And then finally, we've got values. These, of course, are the important principles, important beliefs, the ways of behaving and seeing the world that connect everyone, and they represent how the business does business. They need to be lived, observable, actionable, so tangible things that are really meaningful. And of course, many organisations have vision, mission and values and these things, but sometimes people say, well, we can't really remember what they are. I know some of the words, but not the whole thing. Or, well, yeah, we've got those, but actually we don't really live them. So if you want your organisational team to get behind your mission, vision and values, it's a really good idea to co-create those with them. And I'm going to show you how to do that with this workshop in a box toolkit. Now, sometimes you might get challenged, well, why bother? Does this really matter? Isn't this all just soft, fluffy stuff, this mission, vision and values? The thing is that together they provide direction for everything that happens in the business. They keep everybody focused on where the business is going, what it's trying to achieve, and also how you behave with each other outside the organisation and so on. Those core values are really important in terms of the sort of organisation that you want to be. And it's really important that the company purpose, vision, mission and values also connect and relate, intersect with those of the team member. All the employees need to really engage with this as well, and with customers and the customers that your organisation is seeking to look after, retain, attract, and so on. So all of this has got to resonate in those directions. Now, they don't have to absolutely be the same words and directly align. There just has to be enough commonality and synergy there for people to really get behind your mission, vision and values and to feel that they resonate with them as well, that there's a thought there that this is for them. So I'm going to go through a high-level agenda. Through this agenda, we're going to diverge. That means opening up thinking, exploring new ideas, really going to different places, and then converging to decide. So the exploring is sort of the ideation, the thinking, and then the converging is deciding, making choices about what you're going to do, which ones you're going to go for. And your job as the facilitator is to collect those raw inputs from these activities and then polish them after. So before we get into the detailed activities and the detailed agenda, just to say that please, in your workshop, gather raw data, get the inputs, but don't try and perfect it and wordsmith it and make it sound brilliant in the session, because doing that by committee, especially when you've got a large group, is practically impossible. So don't write by committee, keep the energy and momentum, but just make sure that you're capturing everything so that at the end, when you do come back with some versions of mission, vision and values, people can connect what they've said and what they thought and contributed to the workshop. They can see it at the end as the end result. Okay, so firstly, start off with a warm-up, an icebreaker, and I like to do something that is themed with every workshop that I'm running. So something that has a purpose and contributes to the bigger piece as a whole. I really like this one, which is asking people to select a picture that best represents what they value most about working in the organisation, and then to write that reason down onto a sticky note. And the next thing then is they get ready to introduce themselves and share which picture they chose and why. And sometimes people will just, say, well, I'm just here for the money, and that's it. If they say that, then I usually find that if I say something like, okay, so that's good, understand that. Thing is, we can make money doing all sorts of things in all sorts of different places. Why is it you chose to come here and to do this work to make your money? Why did you choose to make your money this way? And maybe prompt them along those lines. But I find that by having, if you're in person, lots of different pictures, non-obvious pictures, all sorts of different kinds of pictures out on the tables really works. And also you can have lots of different pictures to choose from on a virtual whiteboard as well. And the toolkit's got how to do all of this in there. So getting them to think about what they value most about working in the organisation sets the tone for them thinking about all the good stuff, the organisation at its best, so that can be reflected into the later work that you're going to get them to do. That's just a nice, simple warm-up. And then think about the starting point. If you have an existing mission, vision and values, state them, put them on screen or on handouts or around the wall, wherever you want to put them. You can use statements from the organisation's website and other resources if there isn't a mission, vision and values, just to show how the organisation is currently presenting itself, what it does externally and internally. And if you haven't got one at all, maybe you're a startup organisation and thinking about this, and that's okay. You can go straight into the activities and you'll start to formulate what your mission, vision and values looks like for you. Now, sometimes, as I've said, people think that mission, vision and values are the fluffy stuff. If you do get any objections, or even if you're thinking about doing this for yourself, maybe in your own organisation, and should you really think about this, my answer is yes, because there's lots of research and evidence which shows that having a clear purpose through mission, vision and values really does make a difference to your organisational performance. So these are things like faster growth, stronger revenue, more sales. So there's an Ernst & Young and an EY study demonstrating that. Firms that do this outperform the market if they have a meaningful brand. It links to increased employee satisfaction and engagement. Also, 1 in 2 consumers will pay a bit more for brands that support a cause, and they're more likely to trust, buy and recommend purpose-led brands. And also it helps you with attracting talent as well. So particularly with with the millennial generation, there's surveys that say around 64% of millennials wouldn't take a job at a company without a strong purpose, and 75% weighing up a company's societal environmental engagement when choosing an employer. So all of these things do matter. They do make a real difference to performance. And again, there's another Deloitte study that shows that companies that lead with purpose can achieve continued loyalty, consistency and relevance. They achieve higher market share gains, grow on average 3 times faster than their competitors, and attain higher employee and customer satisfaction. Right, so we've done the warm-up, we know why all of this matters. You've got some facts at your fingertips in case you're challenged on any of that. And we're going to start with really thinking about the mission. This is the why the organisation exists. What's the purpose of the organisation? And if I have time, I will sometimes show the short version of Simon Sinek's famous Start With Why TED Talk. And this video is around 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes long, and you can find this on YouTube. And this is a really good video because if you've not seen it before, Simon Sinek demonstrates that those organisations that think about why they're doing what they're doing, why they are there, do things differently, whereas organisations that think about how they're doing and what they're doing without a deeper why are less differentiated. The examples he uses are Apple, which starts with why, about think different, versus Dell, which make laptops. Apple is a very distinctive brand and product group in the market, whereas Dell performs great and all of those things, but looks very similar and performs in a very similar way to others. So it helps with that differentiation, that competitive differentiation amongst other things. I then remind people around what we mean by mission so that everybody's working from the same understanding, which is the core purpose, why the organisational team exists, and that it's their job next to get into the why. And I'll also share some mission statement examples as well. For instance, Google's is to organise the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. TED is to spread ideas. I like that one, isn't that nice and short? And Tesla to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. So they're examples of previous mission statements. And again, in the toolkit, I've got many more if you have a look at that QR code, and you can also maybe find some from your sector that you think are really relevant and useful as well. Maybe look at some of your competitors and collaborators' mission statements. Now, the activity I ask groups to do in small breakout groups is to do the 5 whys. You might be familiar with 5 whys if you've ever done any root cause analysis in areas such as safety or any form of investigation or problem solving, and it works really well here. So firstly, I ask the group to write down and discuss and then write down the answer to the question, what is our why? And specifically beyond profit, why does the organisation exist? What is the difference that you want to make in the world and what you care deeply about? And to get the answer to that, and then keep asking why. So why does this matter? Write that answer down and then ask in response to that answer, why does this matter? And you keep going until you find that you're in a circular space and you've probably met the maximum number of whys. But it's about drilling down to what is a true why, the true purpose of the organisation, the thing that really matters. So, we exist to make money. Well, what is it we want to make money to do? How do we make our difference? Making money isn't the purpose. And there are lots of ways of making money, but the organisation is set up to do something, and yes, it will make money. That might be what it wants to achieve, right? But the purpose of the organisation is different. So let's go back to some of these. Google, to organise the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That's how it makes its money, but through delivering its purpose. I do hope this is making sense. If you've got any questions or observations, please do drop them in the comments, and I will answer all of those as we go through. So please do let me know, and I'll respond personally to everyone. And as an addition to the start with why, once they've done the 5 whys, then it's about thinking, who do we serve as an organisation? what difference do we make to the lives of the people that we serve? And people we serve could be employees rather, customers and different customer types. So you might have different customer types and you're doing something different for each of those. And there might be other stakeholders as well. So I asked the team to map out what you do for each of those groups, how you do it, and the difference that you make, and that informs the purpose as well. We're thinking about what is the difference. And then I'll ask them to work in their groups to come up with some mission statement ideas, because you've warmed them up, they've done lots of thinking, they've done the 5 whys, they've thought about all those different stakeholders that the organisation serves in different ways, and the organisation influences and impacts in different ways. And now it's about distilling all of that into some statements that are mission statement ideas, and I get them to come up with lots of different variations and then write them all down and play around with the words and the ideas. It's not about writing down the perfect statement first time, it's about getting all the ideas down and then refining as you go. And then finally I'll ask them to take the most promising one and polish it as much as they can in the time available. We're usually sprinting, so it's quite there are some thoughtful moments and there are also some pacey moments as well. Okay, you've got your draft mission statements, you've shared those back around the room, and now we're thinking about vision. So the vision is the difference that you want to make in the future. It's the big ambition. And I really like the activity, wouldn't it be fantastic if, for this. It's so simple. You ask people in groups, I might want to swap the groups around this time so that it's all refreshed, but I'd ask them to complete this statement as many times as they can as follows. Wouldn't it be fantastic if by the end of this year, if in 3 years from now, and if in 5 years from now, and complete that for the things that we want to achieve or be, the difference that we want to make in the future. That is different from the purpose, but the difference we want to make in the future. And I might do this with some resources. It could be newspapers and magazines that have been used and are pretty recent but used, and they can cut things out and do collage from that. They could look for headlines and things online. There's lots of different ways, but I'll give them a resource pack to get those ideas going. So wouldn't it be fantastic if as many responses to that statement as you possibly can? They're writing all these down. I've reminded them that, remember, a vision is aspirational. It's a statement of where the business wants to be in the future. It looks ahead, is purposefully ambitious and realistically stretchy, because I want them to really push their thinking. And some vision statement examples, again, I would share these with the group as well, are things like from Adobe to move the web forward and give web designers and developers the best tools and services in the world. That's quite long. Harley Davidson is a bit shorter, to fulfill dreams through the experiences of motorcycling. And Harvard University, to develop leaders who will one day make a global difference. And I give them some longer ones, some shorter ones, sort of a different variety of these. Again, there are lots of different examples of vision statements in the toolkit that you can download through the QR code that I put up at the beginning, and also there's a link down below. But you'll find that sometimes people say, yeah, well, that's too long and I like it when they're shorter, and this sort of thing looks good, and they'll get some ideas for it from that as well. So I'll ask them to use their thinking from the wouldn't it be fantastic if activity to create a draft vision statement in their groups ready to share with the wider team. And just to distill it to one sentence, our vision is to. And I'm asking for lots of different examples, and then they will select. So you remember at the beginning I talked about diverging, opening things up, and then converging, making selections. We've just opened it up with wouldn't it be fantastic if, and now we're distilling down to one sentence. That's the converging. Our vision is to do whatever. And then as a group we everybody shares their vision statements, and then individually they'll go around and I'll ask them to say, using sticky notes, which ones you like, what would you prefer to be different about some of the things that you are less resonant with. Okay, so what would you prefer or change? And then you can use all of that, summarize that, and put that into your thinking for the vision statement. Okay, so now we're on to values. And for this activity, I asked them to either create a rich picture, so that's drawing, sketching with some words and so on, or use something like collage or online images, and answer the question, when we are at our best, we are, and to respond to that. So what you're asking them to do is to think about when it's all going really well, when we're being brilliant, when customers are loving us, when it feels really great to be here, when we're getting fantastic results, what's going on? What behaviours are we seeing? What activities are we doing? How are we feeling? And asking them to capture that together in small groups as a collage for each group, or a picture for each group. That's the first bit. Then the second bit is to ask them to put on some sticky notes to describe the words that bring to life the picture they've created, and actually summarise the things that are happening when they are at their best. What are they? What are the observable, tangible, feelable things that are going on? And then from there, we move into saying, actually, what you're talking about here are some of the values that you're displaying and you're experiencing when you're working brilliantly together. And reminder that the values are the important principles, beliefs, ways of behaving and seeing the world that connect everyone, and they represent how the organisation does business. So this is really important from a cultural perspective as well. In terms of thinking about what are the best aspects of the culture that you really want to nurture and grow and develop for the future. So they've done their collage in terms of when we're at our best. They've done a lot of sticky notes to say how they would describe those things. And then I'll ask them to cluster the sticky notes into similar themes and separate out each of the words, remove any duplication, so you've got a clear group of themes that will become the potential raw material for values. I'll then ask them to vote on each of the clusters with some sticky dots. I usually give people 3 sticky dots and ask them to put those 3 sticky dots onto the sticky notes that they feel most resonate with them in terms of their values as a team or the company. And they can distribute those 3. They can put a different dot 3 times on 3 different things, or 2 on 1, or 3 on 1. It really doesn't matter how they distribute them. And then we step back and look at that and think about, okay, out of those top words, what do these words mean to us? And it's particularly important to define each of these words. So for each value, thinking about how that's going to be demonstrated in the organisation through behaviours, and any behaviours that you want to the organisation and people in the organisation to avoid, and I'll ask them to capture that. I might get one group working on that, and then another group working on communications. What does this mean from a values perspective in terms of how we communicate? So how we're going to demonstrate our values through our communications. It could be through our social media, through our customer communications, through our customer help desk, through our employee engagement, our internal comms, and all of that, and also thinking about what you'll avoid. So just to recap on values then, done us at our best, we've got the collage, you then ask them to describe it through sticky notes, cluster those, and then people will vote on those, the sticky notes with the values that seem to resonate the most, and then you're capturing how you think you're going to use them in behaviours and use them through communications, what you're going to do and what you're going to avoid for each. And then it's about action planning. So what are we going to do as a result of all of this in the next 90 days? What are we going to do to share what we've been talking about? How are we going to bring them to life? How are we going to consolidate them? And how are we going to turn all of these raw outputs now into something that we can all identify with and that we can actually use for our mission, vision and values? And I'd ask them to do a 30, 60, 90 day action plan. And just keep it really, really smart. So I prefer fewer actions than lots and lots of detailed ones, but just so that everybody can see what the runway is at the end. There's a lot there, and you've got all of this. I know I've gone through it really, really quickly, but you've got all of this once you've done reflections and feedback in the guide and full toolkit. So I'll leave that there for a second for you. It's on the bigbangpartnership.co.uk website. Go to the blog and just type in, there's the search bar, just type in mission, and all of this will come up. And if you want the full toolkit with all of these activities, how to do them, all the slides, the agenda, all the notes, things to say, all the background behind it, for an online or an in-person workshop, you've got it all there. Just download the toolkit, you go onto the QR code and you'll see it in the Big Bang online shop, and I've also put a link below the video. And look, I'm here to help you with any of this as always, so if you've got comments, questions, if you've got ideas that you want to share, pop them in the comments below and I will look at all of those and I will respond to every single one. So I hope that's helpful. If this has been helpful for you, please do give me a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and it means we can all do a much better job together of delivering mission, vision and values, and really strengthening our organisations and making them the greatest places to work that we can. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Idea Time Show, brought to you by Dr. Joe North. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and access more completely free resources at bigbangpartnership.co.uk/resources. We'll see you next time.